She had big plans, real tangible ones. Study hard, graduate, protect wildlife, maybe work in South America someday. Zuzu Renee Verk wasn't lost, confused, or drifting. She was focused, grounded, alive. But on a quiet night in Alpine, Texas, all of that stopped. No warning. No trace. Just silence. Zuzu's friends tried calling. No answer. Her professors waited for her in class. She never showed. Her mother felt it, the ache that mothers describe when something has gone terribly wrong. And when police knocked on doors, one name kept coming up. Robert Fabian. He wasn't just an ex. He was the one Zuzu kept returning to even when her gut told her not to. So let me ask you something. Have you ever stayed with someone because it felt safer than leaving? Because starting over seemed harder than hanging on? Have you ever made excuses for someone who didn't deserve them? You're not alone. Zuzu had felt it too. But what happened between her and Robert that night? What kind of moment changes everything? This wasn't just a breakup gone wrong. This wasn't someone walking away. This was someone vanishing, completely. Zuzu had confided in friends, sometimes in passing, sometimes with hesitation. She mentioned feeling controlled. That Robert didn't like when she went out. That he questioned her decisions. That he'd say the right things after every argument, only to tear her down all over again. But like so many in her position, she wanted to believe things would change. They never did. The night she vanished, neighbors heard raised voices. A crash. Something heavy. Then nothing. Robert told police she left on her own. But her car was still outside. Her phone was off. Her shoes were by the door. If you've ever ignored your instincts hoping the storm would pass, you're not alone. Many do. Too many. But sometimes the danger doesn't come with a warning. It's quiet. Calculated. Close to home. So what really happened that night in Alpine? And how far would someone go to make sure the truth stayed buried? Before we begin, if you've ever ignored your gut around someone you should have walked away from, comment below with, "I felt it too." Let's talk about how we protect each other. Zuzu Renee Verk was the kind of person who didn't just walk into a room, she lit it up. Not in a loud way, but with a presence that made people feel seen. She laughed easily. She asked thoughtful questions. She had a gentle confidence that made her easy to trust. She was born on April 22, 1995 in Keller, Texas, close to her family and even closer to her dreams. Her parents, Lori and Glenn, raised her alongside her brother Miles. They were tight-knit. The kind of family that showed up for each other no matter what. Zuzu's bond with her mother was especially strong. They talked often, sometimes daily, about school, friends, and the future Zuzu was building. She had always loved nature. Even as a little girl, she would stop to move turtles off the road or rescue injured birds. That love grew into something bigger, a calling. She started college at the University of North Texas, but it wasn't long before she transferred to Sul Ross State University in Alpine. Why? Because the mountains, the wildlife, and the field research opportunities spoke to her heart. Zuzu wasn't chasing fame or money. She wanted to protect the world, one endangered species at a time. At Sul Ross, Zuzu found her rhythm. The small-town pace gave her room to focus, and the biology department quickly became her second home. She volunteered with the Borderlands Research Institute and interned with Texas Parks and Wildlife. She was the student who showed up early, stayed late, and asked questions no one else thought to ask. But Zuzu wasn't all textbooks and lab work. She was goofy. She had a sharp sense of humor and a love for cheesy movies. She could quote lines from The Office, without missing a beat. Her apartment was filled with thrifted mugs, succulents she swore had names, and handwritten to-do lists in bright-colored ink. She called her dog her study buddy, and once rescued a tarantula because he was just lost. She had recently been accepted to Texas A&M to pursue her graduate degree in wildlife conservation. Her dream was becoming real. Step by step, she was building a future filled with purpose and passion. Friends remember her as the one who never forgot a birthday. The one who checked in after tough exams. The one who stood up for people, even when it was hard. Zuzu Renee Verk was full of life, love, and plans. But no one, not even Zuzu, could predict the storm coming. Robert Fabian wasn't the kind of guy who made a loud first impression. He was quiet, mild-mannered, and came across as easygoing, almost too easygoing. That's what drew Zuzu in at first. He seemed safe, comfortable. He made her laugh, listen when she spoke, and unlike the flirty college type she was used to, Robert felt different. Their relationship began simply. Coffee dates, movie nights, walks around campus. He was a year older, working part-time jobs, still trying to figure out his direction. For a while it worked. He told her he was proud of her focus, her drive. He said he admired how deeply she cared about things most people overlooked. But over time that admiration changed tone. He started making comments, small ones at first. You're always with your classmates. Do they know you have a boyfriend? Why'd you dress up today? You're not trying to impress someone, are you? You're always so busy. You don't even need me. Zuzu brushed them off. She told her roommate, he's just insecure sometimes. She believed she could help him feel more secure. That maybe he needed more love, more patience. But it wasn't love he was asking for. It was control. She began canceling plans to avoid arguments. She'd leave study groups early to call him back. She stopped talking about grad school options when he told her, "So, you're just gonna move and leave me behind?" She thought it was normal relationship stuff. Her friends started seeing it differently. Zuzu's friends didn't want to pry, but they noticed changes. She smiled less. She hesitated more. The girl who once led group hikes and weekend plans was suddenly hard to reach. When they'd ask about Robert, she'd shrug and say, "He's complicated," or "He's just going through stuff." But it wasn't just friends. Her mom Lori sensed it too. During one of their calls, Zuzu mentioned that Robert didn't like when she posted selfies. "He says people get the wrong idea," she said with a laugh. But Lori didn't laugh. She paused and asked, "Is that what you think? Or is that what he tells you?" Zuzu changed the subject. There were arguments, some loud enough for neighbors to hear. Slamming doors. Raised voices. One night, a friend said she heard Zuzu crying through the wall. The next morning, Robert brought her flowers. They'd break up, then get back together. Over and over. And every time, Zuzu seemed a little more tired. A little less herself. She started to second-guess her decisions. She stopped talking about her career. She didn't say it out loud, but the fear was there, in her tone, in her quietness. She told a friend once, "Sometimes I don't even recognize myself anymore." That friend still hears those words today. Have you or someone you know ever felt trapped in a relationship you couldn't explain? Drop a broken heart in the comments if this part hits home. You never know who might need to see it. October 11th, 2016, it was a regular Tuesday in Alpine. Zuzu went to class, turned in an assignment, and messaged a friend about grabbing lunch later in the week. Nothing about her day stood out. Nothing suggested it would be her last. That evening, she went to Robert's apartment. No one knows exactly how things began, but neighbors heard loud voices just after 11 p.m. A man yelling. A woman crying. Something slammed, maybe furniture, maybe a door. Then, stillness. One neighbor thought about calling the police but didn't. People fight, they told reporters later. It didn't sound that serious. By morning, Zuzu hadn't shown up for a scheduled exam. Her professors assumed she overslept. Her friends texted. No reply. A coworker called her twice, then 3 more times. Nothing. Her phone was off. Her car hadn't moved. Zuzu's roommate reported her missing that night. Robert told police she left his apartment around 3 a.m. and walked home. It was cold that night. Zuzu wasn't dressed for it. Her shoes were still at his place. Her keys too. Robert didn't seem worried. He told them they had argued and she just left. That story might have worked, if not for the timing. If not for the growing list of people who knew Zuzu better than that. She wouldn't leave her life behind. And she definitely wouldn't leave in silence. Robert's version of events stayed the same. She walked out. No explanation, no goodbye. Just walked away from the argument and disappeared into the night. But the details didn't hold up. Security footage from his apartment complex showed no sign of her leaving. Her phone was last pinged near his unit, then nothing. And then there was the car. Her silver Mazda, parked exactly where she left it, keys inside her bag. She never drove off. Never called a rideshare. Never texted anyone. When Zuzu's mother called him, he answered with a flat tone. No panic. No emotion. "I don't know where she went," he told her. Maybe she just needed space. The next day, instead of helping with the search, Robert went shopping with a friend. Receipts showed purchases, plastic drop cloths, cleaning supplies, gloves. When asked why, he said it was for a project. He didn't attend any of the community searches. He didn't repost the missing flyers. When a friend asked him how he was holding up, he replied, "I'm just trying to keep my head down." People started whispering. Even those who had once liked him began to step back. His calm didn't feel like peace. It felt like distance. And the more time passed, the more it seemed like this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a missing person. This was something else entirely. Was it rage in the moment, or had he been planning for something all along? By October 13th it was official, Zuzu was missing. Her mother drove 6 hours to Alpine overnight. When she arrived at the police station she brought photos, emails, anything that could help. She wouldn't just disappear, she kept saying. She had too much to look forward to. Law enforcement began the usual steps, searching the area, contacting friends, checking cameras. And of course they called Robert Fabian back in. His answers didn't change. His tone didn't either. He kept it short. Calm. Uninterested. But then police pulled his phone records. They noticed several calls made in the early hours after Zuzu supposedly left. One to a friend. One to a relative. Another to a local store. That store sold plastic drop cloths, cleaning solution, gloves. They checked receipts. Robert hadn't used his own card. He'd used one borrowed from his friend, Chris Estrada. When they questioned Chris, his story was shaky. He said Robert asked for help picking something up. He didn't ask why. He didn't want to know. Neighbors reported seeing Robert loading bags into a car days later. Trash bags. Multiple. One witness said it looked like he was nervous, checking over his shoulder. Still no body. No proof. But the picture was beginning to form. This wasn't a girl who left. This was a girl who never got the chance. And while police moved quietly, Zuzu's family did the opposite. They spoke to the press. They posted flyers. They organized search parties across Alpine's rugged terrain, desperate for one sign that she was still out there. As days turned into weeks, Zuzu's face became a fixture in the community. Storefronts. Campus boards. Lampposts. But Alpine wasn't a big city. People knew each other. Whispers started growing louder. Why wasn't Robert helping? Why did he stop answering calls? Why was his story, word for word, the same every time? Detectives began interviewing more people in his circle. Friends described Robert as private, moody, and possessive. One even said, he didn't like when Zuzu made plans without him. Another recalled a time Zuzu tried to break things off. Robert had shown up unannounced at her place and wouldn't leave until she agreed to talk. Zuzu's co-workers were also interviewed. They remembered her saying she felt off balance lately, that she was tired, that she wanted space. The investigation started closing in. Search warrants were executed. Robert's apartment was combed through. Forensics teams took samples from the walls, the floor, the drains. Some things were wiped clean. Too clean. Meanwhile, Zuzu's family kept speaking to the media. Her mother, standing in front of cameras with her voice trembling but steady, said, "If someone knows something, even the smallest thing, please come forward. We need her home." Her father added, "We won't stop looking. We owe that to our daughter." The weight of the unknown hung over everything. And still Robert didn't flinch. He gave no help. Showed no grief. Refused to speak publicly. His silence said more than words ever could. If you were part of this investigation, what would you have done next? Comment your theory below. Let's see who spots the truth before it's revealed. February 3, 2017. It had been nearly 4 months since Zuzu vanished. A U.S. Border Patrol agent was driving along a remote stretch of ranchland just outside Alpine when he noticed something unusual, a shallow disturbance in the soil, partially covered with debris. It wasn't deep, but something about it seemed out of place. He got out, walked closer. The wind was quiet. No animals. No movement. He radioed for backup. Law enforcement arrived with shovels and gloves. As they dug, the truth began to surface. Buried just beneath the earth was the body of a young woman. Fragile. Wrapped. Left alone in the middle of nowhere as if no one would come looking. But someone had. Dental records confirmed what Zuzu's family already feared. It was her. The call to her mother was short. One sentence changed everything. "We found her." Lori collapsed to her knees. Her husband wept into his hands. Miles, her brother, stood in stunned silence. The search was over, but not the nightmare. Zuzu hadn't left. She hadn't needed space. She hadn't walked away. She had been taken, hidden, and discarded like she didn't matter. But she mattered to them. And now, someone was going to answer for it. The very next day, Robert Fabian was taken into custody. The man who had claimed innocence for months, the one who said Zuzu simply walked away, was now charged with murder and tampering with evidence. He didn't resist. He didn't say much. No public statement. No denial. Just handcuffs and silence. Investigators had enough. Phone records. Purchase history. Witness testimony. And now the ultimate proof, Zuzu's body, buried in a place only someone close to the crime could have known. Chris Estrada was arrested shortly after. His role wasn't as clear-cut, but it was enough. He'd driven Robert to get supplies. He'd helped move something late at night. He said he didn't ask questions. But not asking was part of the problem. Zuzu's family stood outside the courthouse days later. No celebration. Just steady resolve. This isn't justice, her father said. But it's the beginning of accountability. For months people had speculated. Had hope. Wondered if maybe Zuzu would turn up. Now there were no more questions about whether she left. This was never about a missing person. This was about someone who never got the chance to say no one last time. Someone who trusted the wrong person. And paid for it with everything. Robert Fabian's trial didn't happen in Alpine. The media storm surrounding Zuzu's disappearance had made it impossible to find an unbiased jury. So the case was moved nearly 300 miles away to Caldwell County, a place far removed from the headlines and community grief. Inside that courtroom everything came out. The arguments, the plastic sheeting, the missing hours, the shifting stories. Investigators laid out the timeline from the night of October 11th. They showed receipts, cell tower data, witness statements. All of it pointed to one conclusion. Robert Fabian hadn't just lost his temper. He had tried to erase her. Zuzu's mother testified. Her voice shook, but she didn't stop. She told the court about late-night phone calls, about how her daughter had started pulling away, about the text she reread every day, "I'll call you in the morning." That call never came. Robert sat still during most of it. No outbursts. No apologies. At times, he stared at the table in front of him like he wasn't even there. When prosecutors played audio from Zuzu's last voicemail, the courtroom fell silent. Not because of what she said, but because everyone knew she didn't know it would be the last time her voice was heard. The jury didn't need long. In May 2019, Robert Fabian was found guilty of murder and tampering with evidence. The sentence: life in prison plus 20 additional years. He offered no statement. No apology. Just stood as the judge delivered the decision, hands behind his back. Outside the courtroom, Zuzu's family hugged, but no one smiled. Because no sentence, no matter how long, could bring her back. Chris Estrada, meanwhile, avoided trial. He took a plea deal, no contest to evidence tampering. His role wasn't front-page news, but it lingered just the same. His silence. His choices. His refusal to speak up when it mattered. Zuzu's parents didn't call it justice. They called it survival. Getting through one more day without her. Telling her story so someone else might be saved. Even with a conviction, closure didn't come. Because closure suggests something is finished. But grief doesn't finish. It reshapes. It stays. And every birthday, every holiday, every phone call that doesn't come, is a reminder of what was taken. The trial gave them answers. But not peace. And as the courtroom emptied and the reporters packed up, the story didn't end. It simply returned to the people who loved her the most. Zuzu Verk didn't live a long life. But she left behind something lasting. After her death, Sul Ross State University established the Zuzu Verk Memorial Scholarship, supporting students in natural resource management, the field she had poured her heart into. It wasn't just about honoring her name. It was about continuing the work she never got to finish. Her family turned heartbreak into purpose. They didn't just want justice for Zuzu. They wanted change. They spoke at events, partnered with organizations, shared her story with anyone who would listen. Not for attention, but to help others recognize the signs Zuzu tried to downplay. Because the truth is, it's not always obvious. Sometimes control looks like concern. Sometimes isolation looks like love. Sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who hurt us quietly. Zuzu's story is a warning, but it's also a wake-up call. Listen to your gut. Check in on your friends even when they say they're fine. Speak up when something feels wrong, even if it's uncomfortable. You might be the voice that changes everything.